Susanna, you can share your screen now, so you can share your presentation.
A short version will do.
Okay, I'll make it medium size. That week, remember that fateful week when we were all told to start teaching online? I think it was the 15th of March. It's about the same time as when the partial lockdown was introduced. There were many sessions that I had to attend because I teach, I'm a freelancer, I work in different colleges, and every college organized online tutorials for us to use different tools, including Zoom, Unico, which went bankrupt since then, Teamsters, what's called at Microsoft One. And it was so overwhelming. It was also very unproductive because most of those sessions were delivered by tech people and not people coming from from our field. So basically it was, okay, you can do this, you can open breakout rooms. And I was like, okay, it sounds all nice and well, but what to actually do with those breakout rooms? And then finally, on one day I heard Susanna, it was another webinar organized by Seminar Kibbutzim, where Susanna teaches. And she gave, it was like finally a glimpse of hope. It's not all about technology. There's also pedagogy. Hence the title of this conference. It was actually inspired by Susanna's webinar she gave Seminar Kibbutzim, and that's why I immediately, when I came up with this idea and I suggested it to Lisa, we said we have to have Susanna Gallante as our opening plenary speaker because she's a counselor, teacher trainer with 30 years of experience in the field, and I couldn't think of a better person to open this conference. So Susanna, it's over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you so much for this introduction, and thank you so much for having me here, for asking me to share my experience, my insights on distance learning with you. I'm delighted to be here. It's really exciting, as Lisa said, to have, and we have 300 participants. That's really groundbreaking. Hats off to you, to Leo and Lisa and ETAI, of course. As I said, I'm going to share with you my experience in distance learning. In the last decade, I have engaged in different projects involving distance learning. And 2 years ago, I was the content developer and teacher of one of the first 2 classes for English at the Virtual High School of Israel from Matach, from the Center of Educational Technologies. And I will share, I want to share with you the fact that at first I turned down the offer. I didn't think that it would suit my pedagogical beliefs, which involve collaboration and active learning, everything suited to a 21st century pedagogical approach. And I didn't want to just look like the broadcasting of the program. Eventually, I needed a job, so I decided to take the job offer and take it as a challenge. So I set out to explore this environment and try to find ways to eventually achieve my pedagogical goals, which were still the same. They didn't adapt to the environment. I just found ways to use the environment in such a way that I could achieve my goals. What you are doing now is not really distance learning. You have been thrust into this experience overnight, and this is actually called emergency remote teaching, and you're doing an amazing job. It's difficult. It is done by necessity now, but as you listen to my insights, what I want to share with you, I want to take things in perspective and understand that the learning, that you need to undergo a gradual process of familiarization with the environment. So do your students. So do not get overwhelmed with all the suggestions, all the principles. Try and pick 1 or 2 ideas here and there, and then this session is being recorded, and you can always go back to it anytime to step it up. Okay, so that was my introduction to the presentation. Here's what you can expect from it. It's going to be divided into 4 parts. First of all, I'll define distance learning to have a common language modalities. Then I'll focus on synchronous meetings, which is actually what worries most people the most, and how it can be combined with asynchronous meetings. I will give you a model. I will offer a model for a lesson and ways to implement it. In part 3, how to implement it in such a way that you engage students in the learning, which is so necessary in this environment, which seems to have actually no human touch. And then, of course, we'll sum up the meeting. So what is distance learning? Oh, somebody is already playing around with the annotate feature here and trying a heart. That's great. Okay, thank you. Now, the moderator, can you clear it? Can you clear that, please, so that, okay, the screen will be clean. Lisa, you know how to do that? Yes. Yes, annotate. Please do not use the annotate feature, otherwise we'll be in trouble, even though I love hearts. Okay, now, in the meantime, I'll continue. So the teacher and
Susanna,
yes.
I've disabled it for the participants. Participants cannot annotate.
Okay, okay, so we'll keep the heart.
Do you want them to annotate?
No, but there is a heart. Can you see it? It's not mine.
Yeah, reactions. You mean reactions? Okay, sure.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the teacher and students are separated by distance. The instruction, you know already, is delivered in different modes. And the communication is interactive. It should be interactive in that the student receives support and feedback from the teacher and the peers according to a 21st century pedagogical approach. And this may be immediate and delayed. And this brings us to the next slide, which is about modalities. If it's in real time, then it will be synchronous. If it's not simultaneous, if the communication, the interaction is not simultaneous, then it's called asynchronous. Now, I want to suggest a holistic approach. There's a lot of talk about doing it synchronously, asynchronously, having a full timetable for synchronous meetings, which looks quite an exaggeration for most people. Indeed, it is. What needs to be done is to find the balance and understand that all these 3 components that are here on this slide are part of the learning environment for distance learning. And this is made up of a video conference platform like Zoom, which we are using now for class interaction in real time, an accompanying site for accessibility to contents, and digital tools and apps that will help students engage in the learning and collaborate. So I want to do some what is called pulse checking to see who is in the audience. We have 300 participants, which is amazing. I would like to know how well you feel you are coping with the transition to online teaching. I shared with you that at the very beginning, I found it, or maybe I skipped this, I found it extremely difficult. It was truly exhausting at the beginning. So please let me know and let everybody know as a part of a community of learners. Go to menti.com, use your cell phones, okay, which are probably next to you. Use your cell phones, go to Chrome, the browser, and type in menti.com in Chrome, and then 12, 16, 40. And answer the question, please. How well do you feel? Choose one of them. Got it under control. I'm a pro, made some progress, or barely coping. This is anonymous, okay? By the way. Okay, somebody's a pro here. Made some progress. Okay, in the middle, I see. Okay, interesting. Okay, hats off to 30 people, 32 that said they got it under control. 17 have made some progress. And indeed, it's all part of a learning process of making gradual progress, sorry. Okay, 7 people are a pro. Wonderful. Okay, so I will continue now. We see that most of you actually got it under control, and there's a large number of people that have made some progress. So the situation of English teachers, at least in this room, is pretty good. especially taking into consideration that distance learning can be truly challenging for many. So what are the challenges? Lack of human touch, as I said, face to face. People can still annotate here. Lisa, please be aware of this, okay? And I will ask the participants not to do it, okay? Actually, what you are doing is modeling the last challenge, which is disruptions and distractions during the meetings, okay? One of my colleagues told me that she finds it difficult to use the annotate feature with her students because they start playing around, doing all sorts of things, okay? A feeling of discomfort due to overexposure. Now we just, we see each other and we see ourselves. So just imagine how difficult this is for teenagers. There's limited use of body language and eye contact. When I present, now when I share my screen, I see only 4 people at a time. I don't see the students. So I don't see the rest of the students. So it is very important to look them in the eye. If you ask a question and they respond, then roll down. You can click on the arrow at the bottom of the 4 images, and then you'll see the other pictures. You see, and until you find the student who is speaking. It's very important to have eye contact, to try and manage somehow. So indeed, what can make the difference in distance learning is creating what is called social presence in computer-mediated communication. This is the key to successful experiences in distance learning. Actually, there are high dropout rates in distance learning due to the lack or the failure to create social presence, which is the ability, the learner's ability to portray themselves as real members of a community in social and emotional ways. To feel that, okay, I'm part of a community and I'm communicating with real people. As someone said in the chat box before, finally I see real people here. Okay, so it's really nice. Actually, I believe that the gallery view can give that feeling to the participants. So it's very important to try and create social presence. And this can be done through social communication tools, which can enhance the experience of one another, the user's experience, and overcome the challenges of what I talked about before, forming interpersonal relationships in a virtual space. But above all, what needs to be found is balance. You are the teacher, you have your pedagogical goals, and you need to see how you can achieve them, whether it's through synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, one digital tool, another one, no digital tools at all, okay, and a blended approach. So it's important to distinguish between these two, modalities, and understand that synchronous learning is for engagement. It's not for lecturing, okay? If you want your students to see a presentation and hear you talk, you can record your voice over a presentation and send it to them for asynchronous learning. And then actually it's even more beneficial. It's not, it will not be boring and meaningless, but at the same time, you will have students work at their own pace. So this is wonderful for differentiated learning. Interaction and social presence for synchronous learning, which is great for language learners. Okay, they can practice oral skills, drilling in asynchronous learning, deepening of understanding. If your students have already learned a topic through a presentation that they got, then when they come to the synchronous meeting, you can work on the HOTS, you can work on critical thinking skills. In asynchronous learning, you have the opportunity to provide formative assessment. In synchronous learning, real-time feedback, which is also very useful, especially when you pair them up for dialogues. And there's real-time collaboration and coaching. The role of the teacher in synchronous learning is being a coach, okay? Coaching your students. In asynchronous learning, you give formative assessment, and students can also collaborate in an ongoing way, let's say on a Google Doc, whenever it's convenient for them. and still get your feedback or the other students' feedback. Synchronous learning also provides us with the possibility for, as I said before, regarding asynchronous learning, now synchronous for differentiated learning. When you have weak students that need further practice, you can meet only a small group, and then the other group will work on an asynchronous assignment. And in asynchronous learning, there could be online discussions for well thought out responses. In asynchronous learning, students can have the possibility to reflect on and engage with the content. So, as I said, it's very important to remember what your pedagogical goals are in order to make the right decisions and find the right balance. So let's see how you can plan synchronous sessions. But before I offer you a model, I want to stress some reminders regarding the technological aspects. Lisa, please, can you please clean the screen? Do you know how to do it?
Suzanne, I don't have the annotative bar. Leo must have it.
So maybe Leo does. Leo, if you could do it. Okay, the heart has been erased. No, there's still something else here.
No, that's the funny thing, that I disabled annotation, but then I got a message from Sarah Gabai who says Leo annotation is still enabled. But
okay, wait a second. I have it here. I can do it. Okay, I thought you could do it. I will do it, but please, I will ask all participants not to use it. Okay, because after all, we're here to talk about principles, and I cannot be busy with to share all these insights with you, and I won't be able to be busy with these technical aspects of the meeting, especially when I have 300 participants. This is something that can happen to you, as I said before. Okay, these are part of the disruptions that a teacher needs to deal with in synchronous meetings, and that's why large groups are not recommended at all. So reminders, say check general settings. And this is important actually for what we're talking about, for privacy protection, number one, and for avoidance of disruptions, okay? Zoom has indeed a very long list of features in the settings that you can make use of, but this is actually for advanced, for people that are pros or have made great progress already. At the beginning, I would recommend you to keep it simple, to use the basic features, okay? Well, the default ones. And then once you make progress, you can check the general settings in your Zoom account. Here in the meetings need to be scheduled and links well in advance, links shared with the participants well in advance, also to start on time, as Lisa did today. Connect early and see everything works. Have your presentation and all the sites that you're going to use ready, minimize them, open them, minimize them, and have them ready for use so that you won't you won't need to look for them. Check audio and microphone, of course, and mute all participants, as Leo did today, but I would recommend you, because we have 300 participants, but I would recommend you to do it on a regular basis, and train your students to actually work according to different norms from the ones in the classroom. One voice needs to be heard at a time, and they can raise your hand if they want, they can chat, ask a question, and then you give them permission to talk, okay? And also to cancel noise background, which these days, of course, is very common, especially as they're, as all kids are home, so they are brothers and sisters at home too. So here's the model I want to propose for a synchronous session. It's divided into 4 parts, but it could be, but actually you could do only 1, 3, and 4, and 2 could be done asynchronously before the session. Okay, 2 refers to the presentation of new learning material, which can be done in the way I suggested before. So first of all, pulse checking. As I said, one of the most important things is creating social presence. So connect to your students, ask them how they are doing, especially these days. okay? Give them the possibility to portray themselves as real people and arouse interest, as I modeled today. Okay, I tried to do it at least with Mentimeter, trying to, with a short assignment, ask a question. You can start with a word cloud or an entry ticket, which is actually for checking a understanding of what has been learned or what was learned during that week in an asynchronous way. Then new learning material, but if you present it in the class, then it should be done in an interactive way with active listening. If you show a video, then there should be, they should have a while listening task. You could use the participant box, you could use interactive presentations like Nearpod, and then make use of the synchronous session for individual, peer, or group work, especially for us as language teachers. A short assignment with the teacher as coach, they could work on collaborative work. I'm going to show you an example on this. And you can send them, if you use Zoom, you can assign them to different virtual rooms taking place simultaneously. And so 3 students are in one room, 4 students in another one, 3 in another one, and then you can join whichever room you want. Or if you get a question from them, they can call you, they can also send a message from their room, and then you join them and coach them, ask them how they are doing. You can monitor their work too. Finally, wrapping up, reflection. This can be done in the traditional way, orally, connect as human beings, listen to their voice, have them listen to you, or digitally if you want. When would you use it? If your aim is to give each student a voice and hear everyone's opinion, then you would use a collaborative board. And this could be done also at a later stage asynchronously at home when they have time to reflect on the lesson and gather their thoughts in a more, in a match, and eventually write it down in a more accurate way. So the basic points here that need to be remembered when designing your synchronous lesson are a clear structure and flow of activities, like for any single lesson, but here a clear structure is even more important, I would say. In my opinion, it is even more important. Students are getting familiar gradually, as many of you are, many teachers are, not in this group apparently, with a new culture of learning and teaching. So they need a clear structure, small chunks and refresh stations. Flexibility, as I said before, balancing synchronous with asynchronous work. Multimodality, you can benefit from what this environment can offer you. Images can be very, very powerful for retention, and also for students with learning difficulties. They can focus better when they see the screen. That's what I heard from my students. Most of my students at the virtual high school had learning disabilities. And I did research on this, and their answers and their responses, the ones with learning disabilities said that they could focus better. There were no distractions around, and all their attention was focused on the screen. And finally, as I said before, opportunities and more opportunities for interaction with real people. So how can we implement this? As I said before, I myself tried to explore the features that could help me. The features can be tools to help you achieve your goals. So screen sharing, as I'm doing now, students can do it too for presentations, to share what they found on something that's connected to what is being learned. The chat box, as I said before, so as not to have everyone interrupt the person who is speaking. They can write a question in the chat box, and then you can give them permission to talk, or they can engage in a conversation as you are doing probably now, okay, while I talk. I'm not the only source of information, okay? I cannot follow the chat box now at this moment, of course, but if this were a small group, I would be able to see it, okay? And then see what's going on in the conversation, and students can respond questions that as part of a learning community. Participation feature, in a minute we'll try this out, especially for those who are not familiar with this. The annotation, which has already been modeled here, okay, you can see that you can ask students to engage with the screen, okay, you're showing a text and then you can ask them to circle the verbs in the past tense, okay, and then you clean, it's like cleaning the blackboard, okay, and breakout rooms, which is actually, in my opinion, one of the best features that Zoom has, especially as I believe in working as part of a collaborative learning community. Here's a link to a tutorial, to the tutorial I gave on at Seminar Kibbutzim. You can find it on YouTube. The recording will be shared with you, so you can stop the video here if you want to get the address and you don't have enough time now to jot it down. So what I would like you to do, I want to feel you a little bit, okay? Now, I would like to ask you if you find it difficult, as even though I believe that this is actually, that may not happen to you, but I will ask anyway, because it's a different aspect of the issue. Do you find it difficult to make your students participate in the lesson? I myself at the virtual high school had very shy students. So this made my experience even more challenging. Some of them would not dare turn on their camera. They would not want to be seen. They would not open up their mouth at all. They would not even write in the chat box. But actually the breakout rooms did work for them. Those were the only opportunities at which they participated. So go to participants, just hover the mouse over the lower part of your screen, okay? And click on participants, please. And answer this question. Go at the bottom of the window that opens on the right-hand side of your screen. Click on yes or no. Do you find it difficult to make your groups participate in the synchronous sessions? Yes or no? Okay, most of you have said yes. Indeed, that's a challenge. That's one of the main challenges in this environment. Okay, I believe that's enough. We've got clear, wait a second, clear all. Okay, most of you do find it difficult, and it would surprise me if you didn't. So what else can be done? What else can be used? Again, these are just suggestions. Each of you needs to find what works for you, what works for your group, what works for your learning goals. Okay, and take one step at a time. If you are not familiar with digital tools, do not get overwhelmed. Just pick one or two things that work for you and get familiar with it in a gradual way. Breakout rooms, I already explained it before. As you can see, I can assign participants to different rooms and then I can join them. Now, as said, do not get overwhelmed. So here's a warning again for this slide. This slide actually, hopefully will be useful to you in the future, okay? When you go over the recording of this session and you decide which, and you want to see which tool can help you achieve your goals. You have a goal, you have a learning goal, and you don't know how to achieve it in this learning environment, which may be new to you. So for example, if you want an interactive presentation, as I said before, for asynchronous learning, you could choose to use Nearpod and get familiar with it. If you want your students to share their thoughts or to present their work and get peer feedback orally and practice oral skills, then you could do in an asynchronous way, then you could use the one in the last row, which is Flipgrid. By the way, there is a session on Flipgrid today. And I forgot to mention that there is a session on Google Sites, which will be delivered by Adele. And that's one of the main components. As I said, the accompanying site is one of the 3 components of any learning, online distance learning environment. So you will have time to look at this later. I will just give ideas of how these tools could be used to achieve your goals. It doesn't mean that you need to use them all in one lesson, quite the opposite, okay? Again, I want to emphasize the fact that you need to make your own decisions. You need to focus on your goals and see how you could achieve them and keep a clear a balance between synchronous, asynchronous learning. So in the introduction, you could use Mentimeter as I did, or Answer Garden. You could use Google Forms for a quick questionnaire and an entry ticket, asking questions on what they've learned, okay? And then you can show the answers in an anonymous way, and then focus on the mistakes, okay? And work on what was not understood by them at home, okay? Then for new material, as I said before, you could use interactive presentations and Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is a fantastic platform for interactive videos. Okay, so for example, this week, I gave my students at Seminar Kibbutzim an asynchronous assignment, and I recorded myself and I shared my screen for the presentation. And then I uploaded it on Edpuzzle with questions for them. Okay, so this way also I will know that they have watched it. Okay, they cannot move on, they cannot make progress until they give an answer. For peer work, individual work, there's Google Docs, of course. Google Slides is, in my opinion, one of the best tools to reflect learning, to share group work. Okay, students work collaboratively in virtual rooms, and they write what they have found, what they have come up with, and then they can share it to the group. And reflection, as I said before, Flipgrid, just a quick question. One thing that you are taking from this session, Mentimeter, okay? Or one word that you want to remember, vocabulary, a word cloud. So here's an idea. This is a lesson actually that my students at the virtual high school engaged in. And so again, I'm using the model with ideas that I could choose from, okay, the different tools that I could choose from, and this is how I did it, okay? I started with oral brainstorming, sorry, the topic. The topic was people who have made a difference. I did this, if I remember well, I taught, this was a unit, I had taught a unit from Take a Stand, the books Take a Stand, and then as a follow-up, I decided to have them do some collaborative research work, student-led learning, to choose the person that they wanted to find information on and use the vocabulary that they had learned. So I did oral brainstorming, what makes someone influential. Then they built their own vocabulary, okay, through a word cloud. Which words would you use to describe someone who is influential? And then I said, okay, now go and work in groups. Decide on a person you want to do research on, do internet search, and synthesize, critical thinking skills, synthesize what you have found. Do not do copy and paste in writing in one slide of the shared collaborative presentation, okay, to build knowledge together. And eventually what I did was oral sharing, but some people may find it boring, it may not work with classes. So Flipgrid is great, as I said before. And this is what, this is the result. This is the product, okay? This is a slide from one group on Anna Frank. Another group chose to look for information on Ilan Ramon. Another one on Albert Einstein. Another one on Helen Keller, I remember, and Lady D also. So to sum up, how am I doing as far as time is concerned? How much time do I have left? Oh, okay. So this is actually, let's not forget, as I said, all that I said are suggestions, are insights that I have Now you are doing this by necessity, but what needs to be remembered is that this is for the future, because distance learning is here to stay. I believe that there should be a blended hybrid approach, actually. And you're being exposed to a wonderful world of opportunities.
Susan, I'm sorry, you actually have 10 minutes.
Wonderful,
Sorry.
thank you. Oh,
Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'll be able to go over this in a proper way, since this is very important. This is what I want. This is what I want you to remember from at least one principle. Okay, so a careful design process. It's never enough, and that's that's why what you're doing now is not design a distance learning. When designing distance learning requires a careful design process. You don't have the time for this, but you're learning how to do it. Here's a model. Some of you have been doing it amazingly, apparently, because they do feel, the way you feel is actually what matters the most here, okay? Overcoming fears and that many people may have had in the past, okay? And keeping the learning objectives in mind. As Leo said, it's all about pedagogy. That's what this is all about, not technology. Technology is a tool that can help us achieve our pedagogical goals. A blended approach, which I have suggested already, I have proposed already, flexibility, okay? Do not hold long lessons or synchronous lessons or every time the same duration. Balance this with the asynchronous work, see what is needed. And also forms of assessment, by the way, okay? Exams do not work so well here in this environment. I'm a member of the digital pedagogy team at Kibbutzim College of Education, and many teachers and many lecturers have come to us asking how they can assess their students, and they're finding other ways to have them reflect their learning. Okay, so number 4, relevance and connectedness. Connect to students' lives. We are now in our homes. Students are in their homes. You were happy to see humans today, as one said. Indeed, make this relevant, not just the broadcasting of a program from TV, okay? They need to feel that this is their opportunity to meet people and talk about things that matter. You can even organize virtual exchanges with classes in other countries that are also at home, okay? Flipgrid has what it's called Grid Pulse. You can find a match for your class there. Virtual visits of a museum or anything that is connected to what you're teaching. Or have a guest. And this way, motivate your students for the learning. As I said before, indeed, all this issue of social presence is actually what will make the difference, okay? And avoid what there is in virtual high schools, which is a high dropout rate. Number 5, community building for social presence. As I said before, eye contact, student-to-student interaction, teacher-to-student communication with timely feedback. It's very difficult to keep up with everything, I know, and that's why all teachers are so overloaded and so angry with all the comments this week, okay, that are so inappropriate indeed. We need to be able to give timely feedback to make the learning effective. Gradual familiarization, keep things in proportion. They need, and we need to get familiar with the learning environment and with a new culture of learning and teaching. Keep it simple. And above all, just some words for these days in particular. Yes, a big hug to everyone, to yourself, to myself. Be kind to yourself and to others. You are all trying very hard. All of us, indeed, are trying really hard and working around the clock. So keep things in perspective. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. This is emergency remote teaching. Now, I would like us, since I talk all the time about community building, okay, and social presence, to continue the discussion here somehow. You'll do this later, unless we have time now. Lisa, not sure we do. 5 minutes. So maybe we do, okay? And then you can continue this, okay? But we'll start with this. Just please, can you, I will, wait a second. I will copy the link in the chat box, okay? And you will all get it. And wait a second, please. This is also what you do in order to interact, okay? If you share with the second chat box, here it is. Wow, lots of messages here that I haven't read, okay? And I'm sharing this with you rather than ask a question here, because if I ask the question, I would hear only one voice, 2, 3 voices. There are 300 people here, and I want everybody, each and every one of you, to feel part of this, to voice your insights yourself. Wait a second, please. I need to open, oh, just a second, Padlet. Okay. And what I want you to answer here is, actually, I would like you to share one, something that has worked for you, that you can, that would help others from this group, okay? Or something that you are taking with you, your takeaway from this session, and why this would be relevant to you, how you would like to implement it. So what you need to do, for those who are not familiar with this fantastic tool, really fantastic tool, one of the best, which is Padlet, but the problem is that you can use only 3 boards, but then you can recycle them. Click on the plus button, and then a window will open up, a sticky note will open up for you to add your post. Do not forget to write your name. As you can see, I always write it down, write it in a bold type here for my students, not to forget to write their name. So one thing that has worked for you.
I think, Susanna, I think everybody's anxious to get a link to that board.
I have already sent it. So, oh, or wait a second.
Well, people didn't take note of it, and it's quite.
Because other people were writing, wrote more. Okay, here it is again. Okay, please do not add responses so that everybody will see it, okay? Anyway, it's bit.ly/2J, big J, X, big J, big X, O, a big one, big E, capital E, F, and B, small letters.
Is it O? Is it an O, 0, or O as a letter? Can you just?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Try one or the other.
It looks like a 0 to me, but I mean, yeah. And also, please, I'm posting it in JX 2JX0EFB, and please note that Bitly links are case sensitive, so all the capitals have to be capitals, etc.
I would like to answer Ellen's question here, since it's relevant. Are the students able to handle all the apps? Again, you don't need to use all the apps. If you decide, if you want to give your students the chance to voice their opinion, to make thinking visible and give each student a voice, and you decide that you're going to try this out, to use Padlet, then introduce it in a gradual way. Only one thing at a time, okay, if you're not familiar with this yet, okay? Pros, people that consider themselves a pro can do it, okay? But if you decide to adopt this, then you'll do it gradually, and then they'll use their cell phones as you are doing now, and they will use it once, and then the next time it will be better, okay? It's all a matter of familiarization with these tools. Ideally, they should not be using their phones, but we are not in an ideal world. And somebody said here in the chat box, and we need to be aware of what's going on around them. We cannot ignore that, okay? They are in their own home. We are not in control of that, okay? So try and make the most of what they have for learning purposes, okay? Okay, so I'll go back to the Padlet. Oh, okay, now it looks beautiful. This is the what I like, the breakout rooms. Yes, highly recommended. I haven't used the Padlet before.
Suzanna,
Yes.
do you mind if you also, it will give you a chance to go over the comments, and maybe you can kind of comment on the comments in the roundtable discussion.
Perfect.
Because
by the way, I will gladly respond also in writing later. Okay. And so you can enter this Padlet, because this is actually what I want to encourage. Okay. To continue the discussion. Okay. We'll continue it in an asynchronous way, as I'm suggesting that you do with your students. Okay. So let me just finish, please. Stop participant sharing. Okay, thank you. So I'll share my screen again. Yes. Just the final slides. Okay. Okay. So indeed, these are times of change. Yuval Noah Harari said this before the coronavirus crisis. He talked about the fact that in the 21st century, we live in a world in which change is the only constant. And now this has become imminent. This is clear more than ever to everyone. And to survive and flourish in such a world, you will need a lot of mental flexibility, as I said before, and great reserves of emotional balance. You will have to repeatedly let go of some of what you know best, not everything, some of what you know best, and learn to feel at home with the unknown. And remember, connect to your students, to the outside world. There is an outside world there. And thank you very much. Thanks again. I'm really delighted to have been here with you. Thank you, Leo, and Lisa, and I. Yes.
Yes, I'm so sorry to cut you short. That was
that's it.
It was a great introduction. There were so many questions. I tried to answer some of them. Others can email us in the future, share some ideas, but that was a very amazing beginning of this conference, and to focus on pedagogy, focus on what works for us to get our students to be as effective and use English as much as they can. All right, we have the program. You guys have 5 minutes. We're all starting on time. So,
well, actually, Lisa, can I correct? We have 3 minutes to get to your parallel session rooms. The session will start on time because presenters are already in those rooms waiting for you. And we'll see you back here in 40 minutes. Please be back here in the room for the break and browsing, like we do at any ETAI conferences. Some things don't change. Thank you. Susanna?
Yes, I'm here, Leo.